So if you had one word, just one word to describe your company or organization's culture, what would it be? Now, you can't cheat and look at the mission, vision, and value statement, and the last thing you do is run to the C-suite and ask the CEO or VPs, hey, what's our culture in one word? No. You got to figure it out from the way things happen every single day, the way you interact, especially the way you're seen by outsiders. Not just new hires, not just the HR department, but how you're seen by your customers, by the supporters, by the people that you do business with. What would they say your culture is in just one word? Hey, I'm James Callahan, and this is the Do-Over Show, and I'm really eager to share with you something important about figuring out your organization's culture and actually building a culture that you'd be proud of, something that would benefit you, something that would make you successful, something that would get your customers and your supporters enthused when they hear about you and your brand.
This is another generic recruitment video. Let us begin.
Now, recently I got a phone call back from someone that I worked with years ago, and I still remember my first meeting with this executive director. I asked him, and we did this little exercise, like, let's name it. What's your company culture in one word? And he said, I want it to be grateful. You want it to be grateful? You mean it's not grateful? You mean gratitude isn't your number one operating idea today? He said, no, it's not. And it should be. It's the first thing we should be. We should be grateful for the opportunity we have of doing good things, helping good people, and making good things better in our world. Well, and I said, what do you mean it's not right now? And he said, well, people have a sense of entitlement. They think we're better than everybody else and the other guy, and so they think that we're entitled to business and support and recognition and attention. And I said, so how's that working for you? And he said, it's not working. We're struggling. People don't know who we are, and the last thing they would think when they actually talk to us is that we're grateful. So how are we going to turn that around? I said. He said, that's why I brought you here.
I know you are a man of conviction. A person who knows the difference between what is wrong and what is right.
So the first thing we did was we talked about influence, his influence. And he said, you mean from the top down, I'm just supposed to tell people to be grateful? And I said, no, it doesn't work that way. That's like saying that you're humble, and you can brag all day long that you're humble. That's not going to get the message across. Now, what you have to do is actually be grateful yourself and show gratitude. So you have to adopt practices that you have to call out people, recognize people, not for their mistakes, but for their successes, and to show how it benefits everyone, not just you or the bottom line, but how it benefits the team, how it benefits the organization. And you show this, and then people will start to mirror this behavior.
Would you do something with me, Lloyd? It's an exercise I like to do sometimes. We'll just take a minute and think about all the people who loved us into being.
He said, well, for example, give me something, for example. And I said, well, I worked with some people that said, I want a more casual atmosphere around the office. And I said, well, what do you wear to work? And he said, well, a suit and a tie all the time. Nobody wears jeans? And he said, no, I think that would be a really good step. It's like another pizza party, but let's get beyond that. I said the number one way you can have of influencing your culture then is to show up every day in jeans. Because when you start to show up in jeans, other people will start to show up in jeans. It's like you sitting in a meeting with marketers and designers, and you say, I really like that shade of blue. That shade of blue is very important to me. It means something to me. For the next 2, 3, 4 months, everything you get pitched from the design team is going to have that shade of blue in it. You didn't tell them that. They just pick up on it because that's your influence as someone who is leading this organization.
Just 1 minute of silence.
Now, the next step in building that culture, especially one focused on gratitude, is to show, how other people are important, how they're necessary to the work. The last thing we want to do in an organization is to say that everything has to do with the strength and the capabilities of just the leadership team, and everybody else is just working around like worker ants making things happen. No, it's that they're essential and they're needed. For nonprofits, it's to be vulnerable enough to outsiders and to tell them, we need you. Without you, this doesn't happen. Not just that we need you to give us your money and then we do great things, but no, you do the great things. When you give money, great things happen. To cut out the middleman, and we're the middleman. That takes a lot of emotional maturity and vulnerability. That's why writing for organizations that struggle to get out of their own way, they usually stumble at this point. And that's when the executive director or CEO will come back and say, but hey, that thing you wrote, that doesn't sound like me. You're right, it doesn't sound like you. It's the way you're supposed to sound, but it doesn't sound like you. So let's work on that. Now, one of the missteps we usually take is that, well, does that mean we have to revise our mission statement? No. If you start dropping words, your buzzwords, into your mission statement, rather than have them being customer or outward focused, then you just become another version of your own narcissism. No. You can't write in that we're going to be a grateful organization, or we're going to be humble, or we're going to be sympathetic or empathetic. That's a buzzword today. No, we don't get to write those into our statements thinking that that automatically makes them happen. In fact, that's the last thing you want, is just to be able to point to a statement. If you want to build trust, I remember working with an organization and they said, what's your one word? And they said, we want to be trusted. We want to be seen as trustworthy. I said, how are you going to do it? Well, we can't just say we're your trusted source for this, blah, 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 blah. It doesn't change anything. No, it means you have to start the practice of making and keeping promises to people to show them that you're worthy of trust. When you market to them, you say, hey, I'd like to give you a couple days to think this over, so I'm going to call you before next Tuesday. And then you call them before next Tuesday. And when you do, you say, hey, remember we talked last week? I said I'd call you before Tuesday, and here I am calling you back. Now, it doesn't accomplish anything. It doesn't close a sale, but it begins to build the impression that, oh, wait, they made a promise and they kept the promise. So that means that I can rely on them. Now, if you make a promise and you can't keep a promise, like you're going to repair something by a certain date and you're not going to be able to make that happen, the first thing to do is call them before the promise date to tell them that you couldn't get the part, that the part is coming a week late, or that you're going to give them a temporary to replace it, but then you'll be able to complete the job in a week or so when the part arrives. That is, you are proactive and you show that you're out in front of even solving problems. Because when your number one job becomes solving their problems, they think of you as the person who relieves the tension. They let you worry about the problem being solved. They don't have to sweat over whether or not you're trusted enough to solve the problem. Now, one last important dimension of building a culture based on things like trust and gratitude and empathy is to actually go out of your way to explain why you're grateful. You can't just say, hey, thank you, or thank you for your business because it gives us more money. No, we have to explain to them why our gratitude is meaningful, not just to us, but to them. Now, one last element in building that sense of culture from the top down and influencing your organization and really transforming how people work and how they experience life is, well, another CEO called me back and said, I just lost my top vice president. Yep, they were stolen away by a competitor. Now, the first thing I'm thinking is, what's he going to say now? And he turned around and said, and so I'm calling to say thank you. That person became the champion of gratitude within our organization, embracing the idea and making it even more important in everything they did, rewarding people, thanking people, showing them how essential they were to the success of the organization, to the company, not just to the bottom line, but to the well-being of people. They became a magnet attracting other people for job openings at that organization. And they became so famous for this that their competitors saw it and paid this person, stole them away from this company. Now, why would he say thank you? He said, well, because of their enthusiasm, people within this organization see that that's the fast track. That's how this organization succeeds and gets ahead. So I literally have people competing to be the person who expresses and practices gratitude. And that other person in her exit interview said, the number one thing I've learned working here is that gratitude is the explanation for our success, and that I take that with me. The number one thing. Have you ever heard an exit interview where a person didn't just trash you, but turned around and said, I learned something so important that it got me a great job, a new opportunity, but it also is the thing that I will always keep with me because I learned how to be grateful by working with you. Hey, and I hope this quick look at culture in one word, and this funny exercise, just see if you can do it in one word to see whether it's going on now or whether it's something you want to create. Hope I've given you some ideas about making it happen, and I'm so grateful, really I am, that you're part of the Do-Over Show. And please, could you tap the like button, because it really does help a channel that's beginning like this one. And while you're down there, consider subscribing and ringing the notifications bell so you don't miss the next episode of the Do-Over Show. I'm so glad you found me, and I found you. Thanks.
Thank you for doing that with me. I feel so much better.